right, it being 7.
Right.
I'll start again then, being 7 o'clock. Let's bring the meeting to order. Joshua is not with us this evening. He's got a case at court tomorrow. So we need to seek an alternate. Who's next on our list?
It will be Hillary. All right, I'm gonna move over by hand so I can.
Here, so we'll postpone the minutes until after the Patriot Holdings presentation.
Thank you, John Newman from Fieldstone Land Consultants. I'm here on behalf of Patriot Holdings.
John?
I need to turn this over to see it. So this is the site plan that they've kind of phased. There's 2 buildings constructed. Looking for advice on how to proceed for approval on the changes from the approved site plan. So they're going to be building out the other 2 buildings here for the plan. They have a contractor under contract now that's going to start in the next week or 2. And in the changes of the site plan from what was approved, they want to add 3 parking spaces over here. This first bay unit was a mechanical room initially. They thought maybe they could use it as an office. Now they want to have it as a formal office with a restroom. So with the well that was already drilled, they will add a septic system out behind the building here, and that will require a septic tank, septic system. And then they want to have a sewage dump station. So as the RVs come in, they have a place to rinse off at that rinse station that was on the approved plans, and then be able to empty the septic tank.
The holding tank.
Yep, the holding tank on it. That would just be a holding tank, 5,000 gallon, H20 rated, so on an alarm system with an audible alarm and a beacon. So it's not on a septic. It would go off on the alarm. Person in the office would know lights blinking and the alarm's going off in the office. I know have a licensed septic pumper come and they would pump out the tank. So those are the changes. Are really the holding tank that gets licensed or permitted with the septic system. So even though it's separate from the septic system, they both go through subsurface bureau. So the town would get copied and sign off on that application. You know, as we apply for that. We'd be applying for that in the next couple of weeks to the state. So previously we had just a sidewalk here next to the building, and this was paved. Now we're just having a pump out for the 3 parking spaces that are here.
So you're increasing impervious surface there?
Very minor. It's roughly 20 feet by 30 feet. We could spend the count for that. There's a sidewalk through here now. So we just have that sidewalk come right to the end of that parking space. So it's probably not even a full 20 by 30 wide.
500-600 feet.
Yeah, it's gonna be less than
questions from board members?
The sewage dump station, is that gonna be open to any RV that wants to come through and then leave again, or is it only used?
it would be for renters, so
It's only for renters?
Yeah, so it's gated. They get a code that they can open that gate access. They can come in, rinse, and then dump there. It wouldn't be just for anyone unless they call the office or something, but it would just be for someone that's renting a unit.
What's the reason you're putting an office? So it's a totally unmanned situation before. So now there is now there's going to be somebody on site or
More often, yeah. So as they found is they have managers that do regional areas, and they often say they need a place to stay for the whole day when they go to each site. So they won't be here every day, but to be there at least for a full day, they want to have restrooms, so they're doing this a lot of their sites is adding a restroom.
how do you control that the tank's full and somebody comes in and wants to dump? So how do you control that the tank's full and somebody comes in and wants to dump? So how do you control that the tank's full and somebody comes in and wants to dump? So how do you control that the tank's full and somebody comes in and wants to dump? So how do you control that the tank's full and somebody comes in and wants to dump? So how do you control that the tank's full and somebody comes in and wants to dump? So how do you control that the tank's full and somebody comes in and wants to dump? So how do you control that the tank's full and somebody comes in and wants to dump? So how do you control that the tank's full and somebody comes in and wants to dump? So how do you control that the tank's full and somebody comes in and wants to dump? So how do you control that the tank's full and somebody comes in and wants to dump? So how do you control that the tank's full and somebody comes in and wants to dump? So how do you control that the tank's full and somebody comes in and wants to dump? So how do you control that the tank's full and somebody comes in and wants So,
Yeah, so as they're monitoring it from here, I mean, if it's full, they wouldn't be able to dump. That's
so
good.
they're not there, or they might be there, or they might not be.
Yeah, the alarm isn't set for, like, it couldn't take another gallon, it's not like it's right at the top, you set the level lower for the alarm, so it goes off. Similar to a home septic system is, you have an alarm, but you still have another, you have more capacity above that alarm, it's not like it's coming out or overflowing.
So that alarm would also trigger off-site somewhere?
Yeah, they certainly do that, most of them have dialers, so it'll call a phone number.
I have concerns about that, frankly,
Yeah.
especially in the fall when everybody's bringing their trailer back, the storage.
So our question before us really is whether this is minor and does not need another hearing, or whether it needs a hearing that abutters are noticed about additional changes on the site. We have thoughts about that?
If I was in a butter, I'd want to know about it.
Yeah, also because there were some issues with people sleeping in the units, correct?
I had heard about that, so they don't have
Yeah.
it, they didn't have it fully gated either, so now. As they complete these other two buildings, they'll finish the fencing that ties to the back here.
So I would think given the issues in the past and the fact that this might be tricky about the new septic, I mean, the new sewage dumping, that I think we should have a hearing so that the neighbors can weigh in.
So the neighbors are gonna be the state of New Hampshire, the railroad,
Uh-huh.
and it's gonna be A&B vending. And it's gonna be these guys across the street. And then it's gonna be some guy from up in Bridgewater. I live. So there'll be 6 of these people, I guess.
None of them may show up.
Yeah,
But I'd also like to hear from the select board about some of the issues that,
so we, I think, have addressed the living situation across the street. I don't think we found any people in these, or have we?
I don't know if they've had any units rented out yet on this site.
So
They
the
did on
problem's
the other
coming
side.
across the street. It's now gated. I think there's a camera down there, though I'm not sure about that. And so my question is gonna be, you've got this separate system for the tanks dumping out of the RVs, right?
Yes,
The one that's gonna be up on the south end of the thing, that's gonna be just for the office, is that the
Right.
idea?
the office would have a small restroom.
Huh.
Toilet, sink, that's it.
Guess I don't understand why you don't just dump it in the other tank. I mean, you're not gonna have many people there, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is a 300-gallon minimum system.
Yeah.
They said they'd rather just have it and keep that separate, so.
Okay. I don't have a problem with this. I hope we're gonna be watching it for chemicals being dumped in there and that type of stuff too, right?
Whereas a small footprint for the septic. Do they need a setback from their property line there?
Yeah, so it's 10 feet. This is only, so being 300 gallons, it's gonna be in viral pipe, only 2 pipes. So it ends up being 160 feet of pipe. We're probably gonna pull that back into here. So we have a setback of 10 feet from the property line and 10 feet from the water line.
You know, I'd like to see that sketched in. Drawn.
Yeah,
and
So it's drawn absolutely to scale. This might slide back a little bit, but that's, the septic plan will have all those details for the state, to the state review on the grading around the septic, where high water is, and layout of pipe and tank and.
Or, a little bit lower right there on that side.
Yeah, so it's kind of flat back here and then it ramp.
It's pretty level.
This behind the building here is level, and then it kind of ramps up towards the back here really well.
Are they in danger of running over the impervious surface limit?
We've gotten a waiver on the impervious.
You have a waiver on that, yes. That's. So your drainage plan, your runoff plan was based on the impervious surface that you have there.
Yeah.
So you know you're adding 600 feet to, or maybe
Yeah.
a little less than that.
They won't impact. It'll still run, so we have it run from here over to this front infiltration basin.
Yeah.
There'll be no change to the drainage.
All right, so I guess the first thing is to determine whether we need another hearing or not. So do we have a motion about that?
What is typically the standard for this kind of, like, when we're dealing with addition of sewage and things like that, is that typically a hearing? Or is it considered minor in terms of
Well,
historically?
that's the question, is it minor or major? We don't, you know, we have actually something that over 500 feet triggers it in one place. Over 500 feet of additional surface triggers it.
That was my curiosity, what's the precedent?
So that would be one precedent. I don't think we've ever had a holding tank add on and to determine whether that was indeed the impactor said. This is, so is it it's not going to be a public dump station, that's what you're saying. It's only for people who are renting there.
Correct.
I still have questions in my mind in regards to where the septic is. Where that's gonna be laid out, how close to the property line, and then further on, you get your well there.
Right, so
It's just,
highlighted in blue is the required setback from a well for a septic.
Well, protection shield, yeah.
Yep, so that's this blue circle that I have here. This right here is the septic line coming down from the tank. Likely, we're gonna pull that back somewhere parallel to the back of the building.
what is it, the green line right now?
Yeah, it's a yellow line over the,
The yellow line.
Yep.
Okay.
so,
That's not real clear.
yeah, so it's. Back here, so there's 160 feet, so it's basically a 3-foot by 8-foot long field. 2 pipes, it's only a 300 gallon commercial. This like is very tiny, that's a small system you're allowed to design. We'll probably pull it back into here, I'd like to see it back into here, so our septic designer kind of put it here, but we'll go out and have to do a test pit. I'd like to pull it back into here, just to, this is all flat right through here and bring some kind of back here, great ones. But by state requirements, the 75 feet is how close you can get a septic to it, and then 10 feet, so there now this is 10 feet from the edge of the field to there, and then this water line we have to. So as you permit this with the state with subsurface, they review that, the town has copied down that permit separate from the septic, and then also the holding tank will be permitted as subsurface. To permits the septic systems.
For a motion, whether we're gonna ask for a hearing or and if we don't, then we want to add some other conditions to this. Can we add conditions without a hearing? There's like conditions about notification of approaching overfill on your holding tank. I think that is the biggest concern I'm hearing, right?
And
Yeah,
I
likely what we could do is have this alarm float lower. And have it be also a dialer, so it'll auto dial the office plus anyone in the world. Could you get a notification that it's full, and then have the capacity above the alarm up to the top of the tank, be whatever you want to do. If it's 10%, do 500 gallons in that tank, it would be multiple RVs, so you know, dumping it before it reached capacity.
Would we get those particulars if we were to go to a hearing?
You'll absolutely get them on the septic permit.
Conclude, so I'd like to see things like this on the site.
It seems like there's enough questions here that it justified it. I will make a motion that we should have a hearing first.
I'll second it.
Megan second, no, he beat you to.
No,
So we shall call the vote. All those in Okay, so let's be clear about what it is. We're asking for you to come in for a hearing. All those in favor? All right. The ayes have it. Would you please put in information about the collection flow? Sure. How you're gonna manage that, could have an automatic. Sort of be, ideal.
I have a concern somewhere in the back of my head about someone deciding that they want to put in that office. What preclude them from doing that? Or do we even know about it?
Well, they were gonna be able to live there until the next guy showed up to work,
Well,
at which
you
point
mean,
you simply, getting picked out.
I think John is referring to be more differently about an employee than an employee living in the office.
I could live here, I could save myself $2,500 a month.
So let's, are you okay with putting there will be no residents and so,
Yep.
no.
And I would also like to see something in it that stated that the septic dump, the sewage dump will only be used by renters there, and that it's not the people, yeah, because I think that could have a lot of traffic if people are coming down the highway and want to dump and move on.
Difficult. You need a key to get into that. Well,
Right, but if they decide that they want to advertise it, they have it there on site, I think.
Back.
Because there's not, a full-time employee, like, will there be security cameras, will there?
So the site will have security cameras once finished. As done in the tank will be what's allowed.
You didn't want to break that.
Well, there will be one camera dedicated to the dump, so that if somebody were to walk over with gallon jugs and stuff down Canterbury or wherever they want to pour.
Yeah. All that, to just what dedicated.
We asked them to take samples, so I don't know how you tell. What's in the jug.
I think it would be,
I think even after the fact, when they, septic people.
Well,
pump it out and say, hey, you're not taking this. That's the way.
I really think we're pumping and again, license. They're wasting a lot more money. To
And if there's a camera there, make people think twice about
well, that's also the place to start if there is something down illegally, The full electric blade or a physical description of somebody,
Notification on it that it's for, septic only and no hazardous waste.
Yeah, the sign at the. That's the one, the campground.
And while you're doing all that stuff, if you could just clarify where the other septic system is actually gonna go.
You mean,
One
south
on the back.
Yeah, so it's going right now, we're running full back here, the grade wise as they work.
So the new site plan, will have that.
Yes.
So you clarify where that is actually gonna go.
Yes. Yeah, and then with the septic permit, it'll be ties to the property line, ties to the building.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you moving me to front too.
Minutes, May 7, 2014. right, so. These would be net.
I need to look. I want I didn't have any requests for edits of them. So the line one from John. At line. The statewide median value of houses is now closer to 515. Gave me a higher number. So that's
What's the line number?
140 on the 40. No, 140, 140.
How do we handle that? Because, minutes is supposed to be what is said in the minute, in the meeting, not what the. Said in the meeting. Yeah, it's just one way of saying, so, like parentheses, correction from John after the,
Seems reasonable to put in a note if we discover that something initially stated is in fact correct.
just the note that says that it was a correction and not was said.
Is that me?
Mhm.
Lois? I was, Mike, and right before I was in New Hampshire, so I read it. When I said it, I turned away Lois and looked at her. So I don't think she heard what I said.
Okay, so it's not what was said, it's the, it was a mishearing. Okay, thank you for clarifying that, John.
You know,
These are minutes of the 14th.
On the 14th, I have one, 273. It's written as build up and the term was build out. There's a question of what happens if our reach build out is when all of the lots are built.
The only other alteration I needed to make was to take Blair's name off in the meeting house section because she subsequently confirmed that she didn't make it to the meeting house.
Right? Are we looking at anything else on the minutes of the 13th? I mean, sorry, May 4th, yeah.
Minutes.
Second. That's corrected.
That's corrected. Thank
All those in favor?
you.
May 7 minutes?
We don't have any more requests for that.
Any discussion on that?
Motion for the minutes of May 7th.
Second. You can have them.
All right.
Sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Road waiver document packet. Okay, we have we have agreement to release building permit for class 6 private highway. Have application to build on a class 6 private highway.
I put holes in that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so the question came from the selectmen about to review this and ask us for input. We used to have something called a road waiver. I believe I tried to reach Ken Olson today. Get confirmation on this, but I have not heard back. So I think this agreement release is instead of what we have in the waiver. On the road waiver, I think there's one thing missing on this, which is there's a requirement to, it states that you will take your children to the nearest.
Right, it's at the bottom of page 4.
Oh, yes, thank you. So we don't have, okay. And then where is we're looking for the certification of access. So the select board has to do a road waiver process. It also, it's been doing interpretation of 674-41 says they also have to do certification of access,
Access for,
meaning that for the subdivision or the building permit, there is legal access to it, legal right of way.
Where does it say that on?
That's yeah. That's what I'm looking for. Right, so
I'm looking for what says RSA 674-41. Is that what
Mhm.
you're looking for? That's on the very first.
Yeah.
Right.
First paragraph.
place has legal status, class 5 or better roadway, has received certain approvals by the planning board, or is a class 5 highway or private road,
600.
class 6 highway or private road, provided that in the later case. Selectmen, after review and comment from the planning board, has voted to authorize the issuance of building permits for the erection of buildings on class 6 highway or private road, or a specific portion of it, and the town neither assumes responsibility for maintenance. Prior to the issuance of building permit, the applicant shall produce evidence that notice of the limits of town's responsibility and liability has been recorded in the registry of deeds. So I think the question here is, how do they certify access? Access certified, and I'm gonna suggest I inquire of town council.
Where does that requirement come?
It came to us from the New Hampshire Municipal Association because of new case law. There's new case law that says that they have to do,
Hard road to travel?
it's in the new edition, which you have. So the questions I have were about the school bus, and that's been resolved, thank you, and about access. And the form now does say that it is either a private road or a class 6 road. It isn't one or the other.
What was that again?
That the old road waiver application said class 6 or private road. Now, the new version says that they have to check a box that says it is a class one or the other. Anyone have other input or questions?
Where's the box checking?
Seeing it here, it's wait, I do see it, it's RSA, second, after the RSA 674-41 application to build on class 6 highway or private road, on the back side of that page is the class 6 highway, provided that, and there's a private road provided that. And then it goes on, the additional pages are for certification from the road agent and the building inspector and the fire department, police department, planning board, and the board of selectmen all have to sign on.
all the departments.
So where should this thing about certification that it's, that they have legal access, where is that? Should that get inserted, or you're gonna ask the
And town council.
where to put it?
It seems like it should be. As a check mark that it was done
Janet,
in the process.
where it says therefore the, will evaluate applications for a cloud at the bottom of the very first page, and it has 1, 2. Has lists of different things, it could slot it in there. It could say, has, it has been certified as having legal access.
What that usually, if it's private, it means deeded right of way. And
Question, just so I'm
Yeah.
clear, this is a change, we're asking us to, by the select board to comment on a change to the policy, so this is a new policy that we're looking at.
that was my question to Ken.
Oh,
Also, is this a new policy? Which is what I believe it is, but I, you know,
and they're
without
asking
them,
for our,
and they're. Already. The other thing. Is what standard the road has to be built to, improve to. Is that on the sheet somewhere?
It said good and passable somewhere, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so the question with good and passable is that I believe our ordinance says that it has to come up to town class 5 road standard. Also, I think, actually, Megan, I think you were at the meeting when it's the select board meeting where I asked Scott about this. About good and passable versus class 5 road standard and emergency access. And his comment was that he would prefer to see the class 5 road standard because good and passable doesn't mean you can pass fire trucks on it.
is the old policy available online so I can compare to see what's being changed?
I looked for it. And I didn't find it, but that doesn't mean it's not there.
It would be nice to see that. Could I see the policy that you're talking about?
My recollection is that we've had concern that class 5 standards are actually a higher standard than many existing roads in town, and that was why we believe the class 5 standard is perhaps not realistic or appropriate. Something to that effect?
That's why I went to that select board meeting and asked about that, about
Because I mean, yes, all in favor
I
of
actually-
emergency vehicles getting up the road, but also, you know, I look at the road I live on and wonder what standard it would technically qualify.
remember we had discussed a meeting about a class 6.5, class 5.5 or 6.5 standard or
Get a
something.
very special road
And
standard.
because, you know, and that it's also that the select board has been enforcing, or the town has been enforcing this class 5 road standard upgrade for building permits, for example, on Hancock Road and on Welch Road. Welch Road.
And there are environmental concerns on Hancock Road, I think that walls wound up being taken down to achieve it, and.
They just bulldozed them into the road. is what they did.
And Welch Road, the neighbors were really upset because that section of the road wound up being much bigger than the rest of the road.
None of these documents are new. These are all old things that are available on the website or should be available. on the website. So there isn't a new policy as far as I'm aware of.
Except for maybe this last little thing here, Al, which is, where you have to say whether it is class 5 or class 6.
It's
I
possible
think
that
it
this
used
was
to be
around,
that you
this
just
was
have
around
to
before,
use the
I have
class
never.
5.
No, this is the old version and I can tell because it has the mistyped phone number on it, which is on some of the old documents. So that even that's old.
There used to be somewhere, you just checked the box and it was class 5/private.
Yeah,
I will ask.
it's very unclear. So I,
And that is what we're trying to clarify.
So I'll
That should
ask
be
Ken
in-
about the old road waiver, paper. Anything else we
Yeah,
can think of?
I would like to see something, because this is very confusing, and there's like, it seems like these two are linked and connected. Between the agreement and release building permit for class 5, 6 highway and the application to build on a class 6 or private road. Then we have a waiver, and then we have a town upgrade agreement.
Yeah,
I'd like to see some sort of document, whether it be a cover letter or something that incorporated all 4 or 5 documents together. And an explanation as when one would be needed versus the other would be needed, and they would be checked off. I mean, otherwise it's just very confusing as to which, well, I don't need that one, but I need this one, I think I need this one. And there's no accountability as to what's getting done and the
that's
process.
a good point.
So we're looking at these because Ken asked
The select board.
the select board.
So we have a select, I'm sorry.
Well, so my question is, if does somebody from the select board want to explain exactly what it is you would like us to do?
We wanted you to review it and see if you had any changes or alterations or additions or anything that you
Suggestions.
think should go into this document.
It seems like the two things that happen, that we feel like need to happen is to make sure that it's defined whether it's a private or a class 6 road, and that the applicant agrees to that. And then also, we need to figure out how to make the ordinance match the standard in the documents.
Hmm.
So if the
Well, that's the-
ordinance says class 5 and this says good and passable, that's not the same
Yeah.
thing. So how do we make those the same thing?
I've got notes on those, and I've got note on, confusing 3 different documents. Can they be together? Can they?
Can there be a cover letter that identifies the need for each document and whether it's completed or not?
Saying what is needed for what?
It does seem like they're pretty distinct, though. I mean, one of them is basically,
They are,
you agree that you're gonna abide by 674 and you gotta go put it in your deed. That's one, like a legal release. And then there's the application to build, which is separate from the release. There are two.
but is,
So there is a cover letter here. Did you see this? Procedure for class 6 or private road waivers?
All right.
oh, there it is, okay. It's the last page, it should have been the first page.
The agreement and
but
release.
that's part of the problem, they're not collated together anywhere. And I didn't know what order to put these in because it's not our remit.
So it should be a packet that has everything.
Put a packet,
Oh, it's
maybe put,
Packet would be
Yeah.
helpful, yeah, I think.
put a number at the bottom of the page as to which one's number 1, and which one's number 2, so, you know, in the order that they're listed here, so, and then that packet is stapled together. And then the selectmen get the whole packet, and they can see, well, they don't need that one, so that's why it's not filled out, and they go to the next page, they go to number 3.
Well, then they're not planning board documents, are they?
No.
No.
So.
No, we're suggesting to the select board, and have questions, and maybe they, you know, we go through it, the more we read about it, the more we figure it out. In terms of the road agent. In fact, I need to sit down with Ken and try to hash something out.
They go in this order, according to that cover letter. So,
Application is 1A.
correct.
The agreement and release is 1B. Road upgrade agreement is 1C. Policy is 1D.
Shouldn't that be noted at the beginning?
Should that what?
I feel like that class 6 private road policy should be, we should read that first, shouldn't you? Before the application,
That makes sense, wouldn't it?
the way it's set up right now already.
I will suggest that we change the order. Any more on this from anyone?
Minor, there's 3 E's in agreement on the policy page. Do you want to fix that typo?
Let me get to the policy page again.
Just on
Which line?
the second paragraph, item 3, see attached, agree.
Yes. You gotta really agree.
Are we supposed to be discussing safe and passable?
I think we are, our recommendation is to go with class 5 road standards, as I thought standard, what I thought we discussed.
Is that what you were looking for, was input in regards to that?
Right.
Wait, you thought that we all agreed that it should be class 5? I just think it should agree. I don't know. I mean, weren't we talking about a lesser standard than class 5 because class 5?
Yes, and when I proposed that to the select board,
Scott said,
Scott in particular felt that that was not that less than the class 5 road standard was not a good solution for emergency services.
so then good and passable should be coming out.
That's what I think that means.
So can I ask what elements of the class 5 road standard have resulted in these sort of
Too wide.
questionable upgrades to some roads historically? Because that seems to be.
Very big, the width of the road, I think is the biggest one. Does anybody have any other?
And I think the width of the road is the primary concern for emergency vehicles, because emergency vehicles, as Scott said, are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And you get more and more of them on a small road, and then you get. How did he say? He said you get, as soon as you get one wheel off the edge on a 20-ton vehicle, it's stuck. And then you can't get the other vehicles past it to get out. That's, you know.
And then there's somewhere in there, I was reading, where they have to provide access for a turnaround,
Yes, there has to be a turnaround.
probably at the end, there's gotta be an access for a turnaround somewhere.
If it's a cul-de-sac. And that's something we're working on, looking at it right, when we're working on regulations now, is the definition of that. Because we're looking at some where they say you have to have a whole circle that takes up to like an acre of land to, you know, if you've got a big fire truck and you wanna just swing around. It takes up a lot of space.
So again, obviously, I'm in favor of fire trucks getting up these roads, but is it fair to tell people who are improving a class 6 road so that they can build on it, that they need to build it up to, you know, a standard that is, say, better than Asby or Hackleboro or plenty of other roads in town that currently exist and that theoretically we can run a fire truck up? I'd rather not test it.
Well, I can ask more about the class 5 road standard and what actually, the width that they, I don't have that with me.
Yeah, I'd be very curious to know what those numbers actually are. I don't know the answer.
It's almost like we need to come up with a standard, but how do you do that? You can't have class 5 standards. But we have to come up,
Here's the
With
road
something
design,
that's safe
road
and
design
passable.
construction standard was sent to us.
Yes,
So do you want to hear what it says?
does it say,
about
what does
width?
it say about class 5? In that, I didn't see.
Is that in our email? Part?
Yeah,
Yeah.
The roadway or traveled way shall have a width of at least 18 feet. At the discretion of the Board of Selectmen, additional width may be required.
There's no way that has to be 18 feet wide all the way along.
It's in the typical road width of Broad, which is 16.5 feet.
That is some deep knowledge there. A broad is
Well,
16 and a
we live
half
on
feet.
private roads, so I haven't learned all that.
Yeah,
Fair.
So what are your standards there? Do you have a standard?
Yeah, not necessarily.
Where cul-de-sac streets are included in a subdivision, they shall not exceed 1,000 feet in length. If this has a lot of,
so that means you can't have a dead end road more than 1,000 feet in length.
It's almost a quarter of a mile.
500 feet maximum being desirable.
I think that we're ready to properly address this, because I saw those, I read those, I opened those, and Lois said that she was gonna include them in the road packet, but they're not printed out.
Right.
Those documents.
My bad. Sorry, I doesn't have that.
Yeah, they should be in your email, the original.
All right, so how are we going to leave this? I have that I need to talk to them. We want to change the order of the cover sheet so that it makes more sense and has the overall policy at the beginning. We want to insert the certification of access. I think we've resolved the incorporate all docs together, because it's confusing, three different, because we do have a cover sheet, right?
Right.
So we want to upgrade the cover sheet a little bit. We want to get the certification of access sorted out. And then we want to talk about class 5 road standard.
And making whatever is in these documents agree with what's in the ordinance, otherwise we gotta change the ordinance.
Right. Anything else?
I was just out of curiosity looking up what does a fire truck need to get down a road? 20 feet of unobstructed width, 13.5 feet of unobstructed vertical clearance. And an appropriate radius for that route to turn around. The 20 feet allows for two-way vehicular traffic. And no obstructions like parking cars.
So 20 feet is 2 feet wider than 18 feet, which is what we're asking for, right?
Did you Google that?
It's from the National Fire Protection Association.
But again, like we have a lot of roads that aren't 20 feet wide now, like, you know, if we're saying that that's the minimum to get fire cleanup, are we saying that there's a bunch of roads in town that we can't currently service this fire?
I will ask.
Feels like a relevant question.
I think that's where they rely on the term safe, good and safe passage.
Yeah.
Which is very vague.
Well, I know you can run, you know, a school bus through Ashby Road, because I've seen people do it.
I've done it.
Yeah, which is, you know, not considerably larger or considerably smaller than a lot of fire trucks, but, you know, also, there's no way Ashby Road is 20 feet wide all the way.
Well,
I can contest that Sherwood Forest not having roads even that wide and making some fire trucks.
Yeah, like, I mean, obviously wider is ideal, but
But I think the issue is that once you get down a road, there's a point of no return.
yeah,
Where it becomes where you either gonna get stuck, or you can't turn around, or it's gonna take a tow truck to get it back out.
yeah,
So I think,
having a turnaround is probably more critical than having on the.
so I think, I suspect the selectmen want us to define something a little less than class 5, but better than good and safe passage. Something you can hang your hat on.
Is that what Scott said, though? It sounded like Scott.
It sounded to me like Scott was saying he didn't want to go anything lower than class 5. But now I have a number like 18 feet and I can talk to him and see, and I'm gonna go measure Raspberry Road.
Right? But the narrow
I know that people who are building on private and class 6 roads get upset about having to make these changes, but when we go to these like municipal association events and the OEP events, they recommend not allowing anybody to build on private and class 6 roads, period. So,
But that's the problem.
so it's
It's a
Well,
liability.
that's a different issue, actually.
Well, what
That's
I'm
the
saying-
issue is about requirement for town to take on maintenance. Which is it's a whole different ball of worms that is a very complex and difficult issue in this town. Because this town has much more non-maintained roads than most towns in New Hampshire. And it's, I asked specifically about this at one of the municipal association trainings. And they said, it's gonna happen eventually. The town is gonna have to take on maintenance of these roads eventually. Is that true? That's what they said. And when you look at the dollar number of taking on that maintenance, it's a huge, huge number. So it's a different issue.
Well, I guess what I was thinking is when people complain, you're gonna make us spend so much money to bring the road up to the standard. The alternative is we don't allow people to build on these roads, period. And that's,
But I think that foot is stuck in the door because, for example, with this road upgrade agreement, you're already implying that we're allowing it. We're allowing people to build on class 6 roads, period. So it's been
So-
done and will continue to be.
yeah, but it doesn't have to be. The town, for a long time, the town didn't allow anybody to build on class 6 and private roads. And then if they started up again, maybe 15, 20 years ago.
And the town
That's where the
can,
selectmen want to go.
I want to ask all the selectmen and Ken at the same meeting, so we're all agreeing about what we're asking, I guess.
right, I think I should come in and talk
Probably,
to
yeah.
you.
I mean, we do require a waiver if you're on a class 6 road, and Hancock was a good example of that, because we didn't enforce it, and then we got a mess up there. We got stone walls tumbled into the road and they weren't putting up gravel down.
No drainage.
And it's
No
not
drainage.
even that the town requires it, it's a state requirement. If you build on, if the town allows someone to build on a class 6 or private road, they must sign a waiver that holds the town blameless for anything that happens there. And the town, and it says, right, and it's a state law, the town says he will never take on this road. But what they're saying is the reality is that will probably change at some point.
Maybe, but I mean, right now, the town actually votes on the roads, correct? We, at town meeting, we say we want this road, and we say yes. or no.
Yeah. But they're, I think what they were arguing is there's gonna be a lawsuit someday and a court is gonna say, if you've been allowing people to build, then you're gonna have to take it on.
Right, the case law is going to come in and bite a lot of towns in the butt. Anyhow, I'll come in and talk to you guys about it. The selectmen do have, so just because there is an application to do it, doesn't mean that all private roads and all class 6, there's a whole lot about, in state law, about premature and scattered development. And the select board can designate areas of town or roads or sections where there will not be, where it is premature and scattered development, and can say there won't be any there. So. Did we beat this to death?
I would be the says we're gonna be it tonight.
All right.
Maybe we beat that and they got some.
Rules and procedures update. All right, so we have a bunch, we talked about a number of changes in rules and procedures. These are ones that I've been back and forth with town council of, and let's see.
What is this document? Is this from town council?
This is, yeah, this is, so. Enter meeting materials in the record. He's proposing, we say the secretary shall prepare a list of all documents submitted regarding an application that are circulated, distributed to members for a meeting, and that list shall be entered in the minutes. Apparently this is, so if there is a legal action, this stuff has to be available and there has to be a list of it. So by doing this, we're making it a lot simpler for everybody. So you see what the documents are that were circulated. And, so I guess that's an add to the rules and procedures. And we're looking for a motion to approve it.
Where would it be added?
Do we need to know exactly where it can be added? You want to suggest, you're good at this, you suggest where it would go?
This needs to go along wherever I'm discussing minutes, yeah.
Meeting materials, yeah, I would say, yes. So all right, in the minutes section.
Order of business, interacting.
I'm just a tiny bit confused what this means. I mean, at the moment, you know, Mandy takes it in and scans it, so that scan becomes the file.
This is a list that goes in the minutes. It's a list that has all of these things that were handed out at the meeting tonight.
Mhm.
And it just says procedure for class 6 roadway. There's a list of them.
Oh, so this is not just hearings, this is everything.
No, it's applications. Applications are hearings only.
Materials is more than.
It's all done, submitted regarding an application.
So with this would include something like. Say, a butter shows up and they have, they've written a document that includes their issues that has reference to, you know, facts and figures that they want the board to consider.
And it also include letters we get about the application, letters or emails that we get about the application. How the question started, what I started asking the question of town council is how do we have to enter letters, citizens of letters, anybody, and what they have to enter. We had to make a list of all materials to an application.
So there would be sort of like a cover letter notion that
these were documents and then.
Right, or it could be at the end of the minutes and say, the documents, distributor.
So it doesn't have to, it happens after. Like we come to a meeting, things have been distributed. Then Lois has, or whoever is doing, Lois, has the stack and then that goes into the file and a list of those are appended to the minute.
So probably would go in our rules of procedures. Suggesting go to number 8. If anybody has a document open. If not, I'm going to proceed on. Number 8. I had. Um, 8, letter F. And then there's a bunch of numbers, and we want these numbers will replace. It starts, the chair shall open the hearing, the secretary should report the manner in which it was. Somewhere in here. Yeah, question and paper. I'm finding a natural place for it, so that documents for the hearing would be identified, the wording here. You put it in under, so it'd be under F somewhere.
Under 8F.
8F, under public hearings. I think would be natural. It's about
Right, promotion.
motion to add entering meeting materials in the record as outlined in the rules and procedures under 8F.
Discussion. Those in favor? Aye. Next item, circulation application materials. This came up in the board meeting. Secretary shall email available application documents to all board members at least 10 days prior to the meeting in which the application will be considered.
And that is same location, it's 8D.
My recollection is that we were just discussing. I think our discussion around that item specifically about the time.
There's another item.
Oh.
It's about when the application materials are sent out to the board for review. So,
That says available. Yeah, I think it was the.
yes.
And before you go too much further, can you combine that one with the next one, because it's talking about the same stuff. One is all application materials and the other one is all meeting preparation material.
Different time frame. The application materials board members has to have well in advance, meeting preparation materials. Their issue about it all going to everyone at the same time. So let's process circulation of application materials first.
I motion circulation of application materials as written be inserted in the rules and procedures under 8D.
Second.
Favor? a minute to catch up. Lois? All right, next circulation meeting preparation material. Meeting preparation materials shall be assembled by the secretary and electronically distributed in packets to all board members, not individually. When practical, the secretary will distribute packets at least 24 hours per meeting. This item has final approval from town council. So I'm suggesting we not vote on it until we get on certain code questions about it. We want to change anything, we change it, and then go back to town council.
Town council stuff, SPL.
Meeting is meeting.
We, I know, count SDL.
But that's with API and the work, it's just not.
Right, so we're tabling that for next meeting or next work session. Time limitations. The board may adopt time limits for testimony, questions, comments, and discussion at all of all issues before the board to ensure that the meeting is efficiently. It has been an issue with times. This was suggested by the municipal association.
There was the option of being a count.
You
People
don't have to.
can't filibuster. And none of us want. to. Yeah. We may never have to do this, but if it's in our. Everyone gets, 5 minutes or something.
I would recommend some specificity. Just not a lot of law that's come up with this, at boards. Limits on people have been First Amendment violations. From what I read, the recommendations to be specific about when and where you use time limits so that people can make a claim that you're violating their First Amendment rights.
It seems that this does outline when. Adopt time. One question, comment, and discussion college. Like, yeah, very broad, but it does say.
I can this town council looked at this, but I certainly have to do it again and say we're not concerned about First Amendment.
I think John has a good point that it's another tool. Doesn't mean that we have to enforce it or that we have to use it or that we're gonna, it's gonna be very rarely be used. It's gonna be in a hearing where there's a lot of people so that we're not here until 10 o'clock. We use correct. And you can use it, with discretion. I think it's fine just the way it is.
And they talked about this at both of their last. And they, what they were saying is as long as it applies to everybody. And specific, but they also, if someone goes over, it can get very tricky. And you can't, if someone starts swearing, you can't kick them out, like, they basically said, it's just a suggestion. And try to enforce it, it can be hard. But as long as it applies to everybody who's there testifying. You.
Do we have a motion on this or?
Motion, I'll put it out there right now, make a motion that time limitations as written be added to rules and procedures in section 8F.
We need to look at some.
The way this is worked, the board may adopt time limits. Is when, where, how does it, are we adopting different time limits per meeting, depending on who's in front of us? Are we adopting
Yes.
different limits?
So like if you have a hearing, where you have 30 people here, you say, 30 people, give everybody 2 minutes.
I think it's good written.
It sounds like we can, look forward to take it back to town council.
I was thinking of a scenario where everybody is. So, yeah, that. You still time at that point?
I think so, you gotta do it at the top of the meeting.
That's, I would, yeah. But
So
it's
then, right, but then it's, yeah, but then, you know, that person's gonna be,
The person's gonna be going back to what the time.
We talked about this in our time. There will come some controversy here, and the board secretary shall draft meeting minutes and make available to the public within 5 business days. These draft minutes will be sent to email to all members or board members. They reply to the secretary only with suggested minutes changes. The secretary is not to circulate these suggested changes prior to the meeting. In order to effect draft minutes, the board chair and the secretary may communicate regarding draft minutes. The secretary shall include a disclaimer when sending draft minutes. Please see attached quotes. Please see attached meeting minutes. Please do not circulate or reply all. You may reply to this email only with any suggested changes. Minutes, procedures, and policies will be determined only by majority vote of the board.
I'd like to see something added there. And somebody talked about it. We're talking about John's looking for copies of minutes or whatever. And as a scenario, I print minutes. So what I would like to see added to this is I realize that they aren't final until we vote and do all that.
Mhm.
But I would like a hard copy of the list of suggested changes
Can't do it.
given to her or to vote on.
Let's do that, because then that's where they draw the line.
Even if that are copies for.
Okay, I think it can, yes, it can be done at the meeting. Okay,
Thing, so that when you come here like today, when we had the minutes to approve, you also hand out a document with suggested changes, you know who made the suggestion, or what the suggestion was. So then I can take and either it flew or it didn't fly, and then I can attach it to this copy that I've already printed off.
secretary may compile suggested changes. For the board meeting, for the meeting at which the minutes are considered.
For copy editing. It's missing a end quote. From the changes in the second last line.
you're voting.
There's an open quote that please see attached. It needs a closed quote after suggested changes.
We've made changes to that. We send it back to town council. Yep. The secretary may compile suggested changes and distribute them at the meeting at which the minutes will be. The minutes will be considered. Can we finish this? No. So. The secretary may suggested changes and distribute them at the meeting at which the minutes will be considered. This is the town council, you may want to make a change, then it becomes, this is going away and coming back again, right? John, number 5.
Yes, talk about it, I mean, I don't like to print book at home. I'm here and use it once. I can't do happy.
All the time, we had an agreement that I would print or 7 people use devices.
Yeah.
And it is an issue, wasting paper, I mean,
Yes,
it's not comfortable. But if we did have a list of suggested changes, it would absolutely make sense to have several copies. So it's a good issue.
Yes, we've had some marathons.
Right.
Unfortunately,
And in that instance, then I think we would have to do it. And we're on COVID right now, so you know, you can have one per paper. We no, changed. Why I really object to this thing about not being able to use your electronic device.
We were,
Are we done with that? That's not it, gonna be.
yeah, a bit more to talk about with that. We don't have final word, final decisions on that from town council. So, let's move through these other things and then come back to the alternate.
Add to the minute procedure.
Yeah.
I think we should abide by the municipal associations meeting minute recommendations to say that the minutes will always be the output of a single staff person or board member. That the minutes will always be the output of a single staff person or board member tasked to take the document. And I understand the concerns about efficiency and to the fact that we are now recording, so the secretary will have recording, and the fact that the state is, it's looking likely that the state is going to require all municipal commissions to record by law. So we will have to, so I don't see the point in having the chair confirm the secretary minutes.
Any other comments?
I feel like we've already discussed this one to that.
Yeah, we did. I'm chair on another committee and Lois always said, because sometimes when multiple people are talking at the same time, or you're talking about a topic, or we're talking about it, or Lois type, multiple things get said and discussed. And I'm not seeing any board member would fall asleep during the meeting or anything, but it's usually the chair that is more cognizant of the happenings in the entire meeting. So to have the secretary or the reporter fill in the blanks with the chair, I think that's been done in past practice, and I think there isn't any problem.
I think that I wrote a letter with the problem. And this is the recommendation.
But is that rule
I
that
just
not in consultation with anybody else? Is that what that specified? I mean, you say the house individual after the individual has asked the question.
Oh, I think that asking a question seems appropriate, giving the entirety of the document, being that it's and edited the second time, multiple times, then we're now making substantive changes that are not just what was that person's last name.
So we can discuss this again when it comes back. And what we have discussed it quite a bit. We'll come down to a vote. We move on to alternates. We did talk about this, but we didn't talk about the second part of it. Alternates may serve on subcommittees and may vote on subcommittee recommendations. Questions, discussion? I think we already approved alternates to serve on subcommittees. We didn't say they could vote on a small subcommittee. It's not voting on the things in the board meeting, it's voting on the things in the subcommittee.
Trying to find that, I don't see that.
Alternates, it's not in there. It's supposed to.
But you said that they can already serve on subcommittees.
No, I'm saying we just. Subcommittees, but I believe we did not bring up the issue of whether they could vote in the subcommittee.
I think I'd like to make a motion.
Please do.
I'd like to make a motion. So,
For a second,
Second.
discussion. Those in favor? Absence from meeting.
Sorry, Lois, that will be added in rules of procedures 5A.
Absence from meeting. Board members and alternates should advise the secretary at least 24 hours in advance. They will not be attending a meeting. Pretty simple. I think that's what we talked about.
I think that's.
Remember, it was Logan who said operate on the assumption that people are coming, so just notify that you can't.
I'll email them, tell them we're going to talk to me to show up.
You have a number where you want to just fit in, Rich.
I'm looking to see where to go. It's titled special meeting, so it's right.
Is there something on that?
Or yeah. Yeah, right here. Meet regularly on the second Tuesday of such other times the board may decide to meet less frequently as more than one each. I think it should go after. This is going to be easy to follow.
I don't.
It's going to be under Article 4. Number 1 at the end of the paragraph. And I think we gotta fix because all that other stuff that I gave you as far as locations is going to be Article 4 also. Maybe E, F, E, E, and
So those are part of Article 4.
yes.
Looking for a motion on this absence from meeting. All those in favor? More to come on this, specifically about referencing non-public materials that are not available to the public at the meeting. So I'm trying to wrap my mind around this, and the town council is trying to figure out how this applies to us. Right here tonight, we've had two people look on their devices to look up information. It's good information, great for us to have, it's great for us to know about it. But what is the problem about that is non-public? Yes, it's public on the internet, but it's not public here at the meeting. So I'm going to sort out an opinion on
Well,
what.
but what I was talking about is documents that were sent to me by the secretary.
Right, but we had another one about the Fire Protection Association or whatever, yeah.
If you know that is if I just have an environment and I know and I state that, how is there any information?
Depends on your source, like everything else.
Sources in my brain.
But you looked at a fire truck and using the source, but it might not be a primary source. It might not be a credible source. It could be somebody that wanted to post a page,
There's all kinds
then
of.
they answer
Yeah.
fire and water fighters page, and you wouldn't notice that. I'm just saying, you understand what a primary source is? I was a teacher.
You're asking all the same questions as well. So we'll try to get the answer to this. The town council did advise that if members are using their devices, they could be subject to stuff. So then there were two other general questions. How can members consider that only the document testimony presented at the meeting? Consider the personal, the official town map, or locate to locate the property and for details, or look at the tax map, or ask emergency services about a concern at the location. His response here is all of the above. We should have the subject property tax card, the tax map available with every application. We're not doing that. Furthermore, emergency personnel may send letters and testify, but members should not have ex parte conversations with these personnel. So that means if we have concerns, we need to ask them to submit something in writing and we can bring to the meeting, rather than going and talking to them. The next one is, can the board use Google Docs or Dropbox to edit and share things like procedures or ordinance changes? But if it's such a sharing, that seems like a meeting, is what I said. He says, yes, that does seem like a meeting. Well, it's great, this new technology allows us to be faster. It is, if the majority of the board is working on a document, then that could be an unnoticed.
Understanding the question, because if it's sharing, there is no everyone working on a document, it's literally only available for people. So,
Although we have used it to years ago when we were working on,
We have used it.
we use it to work on the ordinance changes. But it was subcommittee that was doing it. So the subcommittee is doing it, it's still not a board. I would like to know the answer, can a subcommittee?
Meeting's got 3 members, it's
It's
forum,
a,
right?
it's a meeting.
anyway, I find this frustrating because like either he doesn't understand technology. Answer, that's the question.
So he didn't answer the question about what we share. Is that your question? Okay, I will.
Documents into a Dropbox that we can all see, not communicate with each other on is no different than us being all sent an email that we can all see.
And you can't edit it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You can say,
I guess you can't edit. Only read.
that
It's very long to share.
Yeah.
Lower, which is not the same thing, it's long, like,
There's one other thing that you either missed or when asking about in regard to my recommend, all of the persons from excessive talking.
have.
I do remember seeing that in the minutes when plans.
Yeah, we talked about it last week.
Yes, we did.
This is what I was asking to be added.
I think I dropped that off my list this time. Very good.
I mean, as far as the electronic devices during meetings, I mean, I'm just looking at the end of the table and there's a board member that's obviously doing something electronically, and she has a laptop. How is that any different than me having my phone and looking at my phone?
Yeah, no.
You know, you
I think I'll need to be able to use our.
He is not saying we can't use the. Council is not saying that, so let me be clear about that. He is not saying you can't use.
but it's subject to subpoena and discovery.
And I'm flipping through my notes. See,
Does
this-
not mean that there's any likelihood that anyone ever actually would try to subpoena you.
We also said, when we asked them about that, they would have to ask you to turn over what you think is relevant, that they can't take your phone, press it. So if it's just a right to know thing, and people are,
Well, that's the thing.
right, but unless it goes to court, they can ask you for it, and you can hand over. You don't have to have. Unless there's a judge telling you to.
There's a lawsuit.
All right, thank you, Rich. I forgot that. We're going back around. What? Number, yeah, yes.
What's what number to achieve a quorum? For meeting?
There's 7.
Four.
But if we're short a member, then it becomes,
Number would still help.
There's typically gonna be 7.
So. What if we print some? That much.
better than 10, which is what we're doing now, so.
Well, the 6 members, and we've seated 4 alternates. That's 10. And if we're gonna encourage the alternates to participate, they shouldn't have anything less than what a board member gets.
I don't mind.
It should be,
Sharing documents is not the end of the world, and, you know, lots of us are happy accessing documents on our devices.
we can,
Suggesting that the number of board members.
That's the place to start.
if you're gonna share, then you only need 5.
Well, right
There's
now, we're
6
doing
plus
10,
4.
so. I don't know that we need to specify a number of documents and procedures, someone just need to let Lois know how much
That's
they feel
correct.
is appropriate to any given time. And seems acceptable, 7 seems more reasonable. Might be 20.
How about 6? Everybody settled on 6? Okay, question from town council. The town received an RSA 91A request seeking a document that was allegedly handed out by the planning chair to the entire board at the beginning of the first dash here. Chair cannot recall handing out the document at the time, and a review of the meeting minutes does not reflect the handing. In order to help the town respond to the request, can each member please, they can recall this document if they have a copy.
Do we know about?
The document is
Yeah.
about? No. They just saying
Very first one. are
the
you talking
first
about
dash.
the- conceptual consultation.
No,
Did you say who handed it?
Hearing.
it said I handed it out.
You handed it.
Yeah.
What date was that?
June 26th.
September.
26th, I'm sorry. You're right.
I can barely remember what I ate last night for dinner.
And the minutes don't be different, yeah,
No,
so I didn't think that there was a handout, this is just some recollection.
Yeah. have to talk about this more, or any other input? Anyone remember anything? Anybody keep stacks of all the documents filed from all the meetings?
I do, but it's not there, so.
Yeah, I certainly absolutely have recollection of specific documents from September of last year, and I firmly believe that it's been more handed out, while it's sort of made notice.
I wasn't there, I was.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what
Okay.
you talked about, having a list of documents at each meeting.
That's the thing, that's what just up
So
for one
if
of the-
those were-
Greg. So the answer is no. Number 7, request for Mike Tardif about members editing master plan check. Lois,
Well, I put a few hard copies of that around because I found it difficult to understand, like. The issue is, how would you like to have the master plan chapters that regional planning edits? So like getting towards final copy, typos, choice.
this has been through multiple meetings, so we can't change the sense of the document about what the document says. But if they're spelling error, punctuation errors, possibly a better word choice or something. The date, Mike said he would take it. He said he'd take it in any way to get it to him. I think he said he preferred copies. It was the easiest thing for him to do. But if I'm sure they can print something out if that's how it comes to the thoughts.
They don't have them here and not gonna get to us before June 11th.
What we did last was people sent it to me and I forwarded them to my. I don't know if that would be the most, or the sort of least difficult thing to do. The idea of him getting 6 or 7 copies from 6 or 7 different people, possibly overlapping it. You know,
Right, yeah. Well, I think that's a good suggestion. Does anybody have,
So send it to Lois.
send it to Lois. So these are the two,
Compilation.
these are the chapters that we have already reviewed and land use, natural resources and
Transportation.
transportation.
And the drafts that are available on our website are current,
So,
because there were definitely a few odds and ends that we want to add.
I think you wanted to have them a week before, on. June 11th.
That's pretty soon.
Tuesday. And if we aimed for. Yeah, this week. I mean, I think to be better than the 4th or the 5th, because then they'd only have the Thursday and Friday that week.
or Monday before they come on Tuesday. What do you think is still? Well, what do you think is doable in terms of publishing credit and turning them around to that point?
Well, I could be working with Greg on the agenda around that time.
The first.
But he wants to, so that's gonna be Thursday, Friday, so the beginning of that week is what, the fourth?
Yeah. Fourth is a Tuesday. The fourth Wednesday.
Can we shoot for the fourth to get them close?
The January. For those might know, seminars is. Our whole weekend.
Everybody seen the information? Right to know seminars, sponsored by the town, here, town hall. They're going to two of them, that was noticed in, I thought, I assume.
From Kent Foster.
I get it in my calendar. I don't know when the first is.
On the 18th.
6:30.
It's about 2 hours.
Don't bring your electronic.
Yes, I think that brings us to our business. Business from anyone?
I have. I'm waiting with bated breath. Because at the end of the meeting on March 15th, Megan, at the end of the meeting, you said that you would be writing a letter to the board as you posted it and make it publicly available. So
Meeting upstairs and in your back, so I've been like I actually have my letter fairly done, so that should be coming out.
I'm sorry to hear that. Megan. You fell downstairs.
For those of you in my house, it's a very unique, not amenable to doing laundry or chasing a toddler.
I'm sorry. Overdue to fall down my own.
Okay. I have one. We now have recorded minutes, recorded sessions. Numerous members have asked me independently to go to something less than 30-page conditions, hoping we could get back to a summary version that would be more than the 6-page length. Discussion. Yes, please.
Second.
Anyone else?
Publicly available recordings.
So, for motion to go to a summary style minutes in the 5 to 6 page length, if possible. So moved.
So. As long as that's.
I think we discussed this also. For public hearings, I think they need to be more detailed. Where is this? I feel like I'm speaking out of some recent minutes here, because I just read that. So detail, certain times, less detail, other times.
We've had a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. And we'd be looking for a motion to adjourn. There's
I was following the lead and
Oh, I see. Something that came to mind here with item 6 of the agenda. I don't know, I wasn't here, I don't know what the recollection is about something being handed out. I don't know anything about that, but what struck me in that conversation is that it highlights, I think, one of the reasons why the municipal recommends that the minutes be a single out of a single staff member, because I don't know if you worked with whoever Ray was on those minutes. I don't need to know that, but I do know that if somebody is saying you handed out something, you edited the minutes, it happened, if that was the standard practice as things have been done, and nobody else remembers how that creates liability. So that to me highlights a reason why I think it's important that it's be from just a second.
Thank you. Anyone else?
And I'm not gonna speak it up, but I still disagree, Megan, I think I think have been procedures and little things, little tidbits put in place, like, for example, thing of the documents that are gonna be made available at the hearing, and there's safeguards in place. Still do not see anything wrong with the chair or the secretary working on the draft. Period.
Rick, anything else before we adjourn? You Logan, you need a second. Thank you, everyone.